Okay, we are here at Super Booth. Nice to meet you. Thank you for your time. For the beginning, can you introduce yourself, please?
So I'm Tom Whitwell from Music Thing Modular, which is a DIY kind of open source synthesizer company based I'm in London, and a lot of the manufacturing is in Brighton in England.
And I have researched that you worked as a journalist.
Yeah.
How did you get from there to building synthesizers?
So my background was in journalism. I worked in magazines. I then worked in newspapers at the Times of London. And as a kind of hobby on the side, I started making guitar pedals, which is kind of a simple thing to solder. I then got into Eurorack in about 2010 maybe, started going into modular synthesizers. And a friend of mine was like, oh, you could do that DIY thing in the Eurorack modules maybe. So I started designing a few simple modules and sharing the designs on forums, on Modwiggler, those kind of places. And then I designed a thing called the Turing Machine, which is a kind of random looping sequencer. Published that as a completely open source project, just thinking people would buy the components and make them themselves. What happened was a guy said, I'll make a kind of group buy for this. I'll buy the parts and sell them as kits. That became Thonk, which is kind of a place that manufactures DIY kits for people. And so for the last 12 years or so, I've been selling through Thonk and designing different things. And for the last 2 years, I've been doing this full time, so it's now my real job.
Okay, nice. You decided only to make your modules open source. Why is it so important to you?
So I'm much less sort of pedantic about open source than I used to be.
Okay.
I'm now very much like, if somebody wants to use my designs to make something themselves, they can contact me, they can get all the designs. I'm very happy to share and encourage that. If somebody just wants to take my design and make it cheaper and sell it themselves, I'm not very interested in that.
Yeah,
I've seen that happen in the past. So I really want people to be able to learn from stuff, to be able to, what often happens is I will design something and somebody will say, I'd love to make this in a different format. I'd love to make a booklet format version of this or a Surge format of this. I love people to do that. Or they say, I've got an idea, I want to make my own thing that uses part of this. I'm very keen for people to do that.
Yeah, okay. But I think many companies do that so that they protect their own work, their designs and their ideas. Do you know where the step was when you said, okay, I don't want to do this anymore?
So I kind of came out of the sort of maker community and the open source community. So everything I've done has been learning from that community.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't like a big, strange decision.
Okay.
It just felt like the way that I would do it because that was the sort of community
it just felt right. So.
And I've had a lot of advantages from that, from people taking what I've done and making more from it, I suppose.
And other things that you took from your time as a journalist into your now work as an engineer?
I think probably not specifically in terms of engineering, but I think in terms of being able to explain things, in terms of, I think a big part of design is taking something complicated, figuring out what's important and throwing away the stuff that's not important, which is really what you do as a journalist, is what you do as an editor. And I think that process of looking at something complicated and finding the most valuable details is probably something I took from that world.
Okay. You're in close contact with your DIY community. How does the community influence your ideas or your work?
So one of the things that I think about a lot when I'm designing stuff is trying to get out of the way. I'm like, I have an idea about how something might be used, but I might be wrong. So if I design an oscillator I want to think, what's the simplest thing I can give somebody that they can use without thinking, oh, they're going to want to do this and this and this, because I can only imagine a small part of what people might do with it. So in the workshop system, which is the sort of big standalone synth I have, that has a computer in it that people can program themselves. And the things that people have done with that, I could never have imagined were technically possible, were interesting ideas. So somebody said, oh, I can connect this to my laser. And they built a system to use the analog circuits to control lasers. Somebody else said, I want to record the rain in my backyard in my apartment in Seattle. And just have a control that gives you heavier rain or lighter rain. And I'm like, I wouldn't have that idea, and I wouldn't know how to do something like that. I wouldn't think of it. But that has been such a brilliant, funny idea. When you're explaining to somebody who doesn't understand modular synthesis, to show them that, and they're like, that's funny, that's exciting, I get it. So often it's not like I'm necessarily listening to community and they're saying, we want feature A and B and C. I'm looking at what they're doing and saying, how can I make sure I don't prevent them from being able to build their own thing with A and B and C and D and E and F.
How do you see the current development of the modular scene?
I don't know. It's really hard to tell. I think there's been such an extraordinary growth in the last 10 years. So I was at Super Booth, this event, 10 years ago.
Okay.
The first big one. In fact, I was at the original Super Booth when it was a music messe in Frankfurt. But the change from just 10 years ago to now, just the number of people who've entered that scene, the number of big companies involved, the number of small companies involved, there's a lot more. That means it's much, I think, to cut through, to find an audience, you have to be able to do something different, sort of surprising that. So I think that's really positive for seeing, because people are experimenting.
And I have one last question. Is there something you definitely still want to build in the future?
Yeah, there's definitely things. I'm not going to try and explain what they are, but there's a lot of, there's lots of areas. I think anyone who's a designer, you have this whole world of ideas, and often there are things that seem impossible. So it's something that I would like to make, but I don't know how to do it. Sometimes you'd like to make something, but just the technology doesn't exist, or it's too expensive. And then one day you're reading through a catalog and you're going, with that thing, I can make this thing happen. Or you see like an open source library that says, now you can do that. So I think all the time that's changing. So I've got lots of ideas that float around, and they're all in the kind of too difficult, too annoying, too impossible pile. And what I've experienced is that over time they move into the, actually now I can do that.
The more possible array.
Now it's actually cheap. I can do it straight away.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, for giving us a sight in your work and how you got from journalism into building synthesizers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.